Welcome to the Pool Nation Podcast, where it's all pool talk. And we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. We talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. Now let's welcome your host, with over a decade of industry insider experience and still the reigning champion of Marco Polo, Edgar De Jesus, and his co-host, John JJ Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, and Zach the Pool Boy Nicholas.
Welcome, everyone, to the Pool Nation Live podcast. I'm your host, Edgar De Jesus, and yes, I am the reigning champion of Marco Polo, along with Mr. John JJ Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, and the famous Zach, the Pool Boy Nicholas. Today, we're having an important conversation about training, readiness, and skill development, what actually prepares you for the field, why information alone isn't enough, and how the right kind of education impacts growth, leadership, and long-term success for your business. But before we do that, I want to welcome everyone to our live podcast, the podcast where it's all pool talk. And we ain't talking about netting and jetting and splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. And yes, we will talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. But before we get started today, I want to thank our visionary partners for this podcast, the SPPA, Blu-ray XL, Aquastar Pool Products, Natural Chemistry, Raypack, Heritage Pool Supply, Hayward Pool Products, Poolside Tech, Pool Brain, and Knee Deck. We want to thank them for their continued support. Mr. Zacharias, what's going on, brother?
You look like a little kid on Christmas right now over there, smiling.
We're back, baby. We're back. You know how it is.
Your energy is on point right now.
I have to tell you, Zach, so I think John blacked out his camera because he started laughing as I was doing the intro, and he knew that if he kept, he was going to mess me up, and he kind of dropped the screen. But let me tell you what happened. We started the podcast, John jumps on, and I think you were still in the waiting room. And so I jumped in and I'm like, Mr. John JJ, what's good? And his face like completely changed. Almost, bro, shut up. This is too early for me. Don't do this. And all of a sudden, I'm like, John, was like a little bit too much for you? And typical John, you know how he butters it up. He's like, yeah, that was just way too much. You just need to shut up and tone it down for a couple minutes.
You got a whole week of it coming up here, John. You better get ready.
I just love that I bring that much joy to him.
No, that's exactly how it happened this morning. 1000%. I don't know. Sometimes you're just not feeling it right in the morning, and you got a lot of things going on, and you have a certain tempo to the day, and then all of a sudden you get hit in the face with the Mack truck, which is Edgar in the morning. I love you to death, Edgar, but sometimes
that early in the morning,
sometimes it just didn't work. No, I'm good now.
You're like, you just need to like slowly bring it in and bring the level up. Don't start with the level high.
Yeah, you were like 0 to 1,000% in 1 second.
I woke up in a good mood, John. I was ready. I was fired up. Look, it's the first. We did a podcast from the studio with Rocco Russo, which was amazing and awesome. And this is the first one where we just kind of jump back in. First one of the year that we're kind of jumping back into our normal. And you know how this stuff just fires me up. It just kind of, this is my therapy. This podcast.
You know what's sad? You know what's sad? Look, I don't know if it's sad or not, but last night before I was winding down and before I called it a night, and I even told Genius I was thinking, I was like, you know what? I'm super stoked to be on to do the podcast tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to it. One, because I think we have some really good stuff we're going to be talking about. And two, it's like I've been gone. It feels like I've been gone for a month or a month and a half, right? I haven't done any. It was like my boys have just left me in the dust. But it feels good to say that I was on suspension. I think how many weeks was I on suspension? And now I'm finally allowed to come back to work. 4 weeks suspension, right?
Here's the funny thing, John. So obviously our schedules this Christmas got probably the craziest that they've been, right? Whether it was vacations or Zach was sick and you were dealing with other stuff. And then I think I did 2 podcasts by myself or something like that. And what was it? Last week, we kind of were struggling with the schedule with Zach because Zach had a couple things going on and still kind of bouncing back from his, and then you were busy. And I'm like, I'll just do a podcast by myself. Let's just kind of get through it. Next week, we'll kind of get back to normal. And Leanne's all like, oh, so who do you have on the podcast? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to do one by myself. No, stop that nonsense. people don't want to listen to just you. She's like, they need Zach and John. So stop it. And no, you're not doing another one by yourself. And then we had to jump on and do a podcast because she wouldn't let it go.
Which, by the way, was an amazing podcast.
Yeah, I think you did better than having us on.
Yeah, for sure. We have some shoes to fill today for sure.
And here's the funny thing is I went to her and I said, well, you don't want me to do one by myself. The guys are a bit like, what am I going to do? I'm like, why don't you come on? And she's like, okay. And I'm like, fine, then you have to come up with the topic.
That's why you got to love Leanne, dude. Leanne is such a trooper, man. And, you know, it's so awesome. She's like, talk about a blessing, right? To have her involved in Pool Nation and helping us out, especially when it comes down to these topics that we talk about, leadership and discipline and performance management and employees, hiring, firing, coming from somebody who's a true professional and a pro at it, right? So there's a lot of things that you guys, our listeners out here, that have learned from us or from listening to the podcast stemmed from the knowledge and the wisdom that we gained from having Leanne in our lives and being able to tap on that shoulder and ask her questions and her to be able to give us feedback and guide us in the right way. So I thought it was pretty cool. And I think we should do that more often, have Leanne on, because it's quite a treat for anybody listening to hear it from somebody, not just, you know, it's one thing we're all in the pool industry and we're all going through it, but to see somebody from the outside looking in who has an insider view of the pool industry, right? What's going on in corporate America and corporate world, because she lives and breathes that every single day. And I'm sure she's in the office right now doing work and doing that exact stuff that we teach and we preach about. So I thought it was awesome. And then this script and topic that we're going to be talking about today, I think is going to complement it really well and give our listeners a little different point of view coming from us knuckleheads, how we see it. And I think it's perfect timing, like you were saying, Edgar, at the beginning about it's training season here. So it's important that we get this information out there so people go to these shows, these educational classes, these trainings with the right mindset so that they can capture and utilize it and to all its potential, right? Because some of the things we're going to be talking about today, if you don't go in there mentally prepared or understand what some of the pitfalls are or some of the things that you don't know until you know, you'll have to wait until the next class or the next training or next year. And let's get everybody on the right side or the right foot forward this year so that it becomes an incredible 2026.
Yeah. So everybody out there that's listening, Jeanette, big shout out to you. Ripple effect out there. I see a couple other you guys and girls out there. Jump on, send us a message on here. We'll give you some big shout outs. Love to be able to hear from you guys. This week's shout out. So I kind of want to get back to that. We kind of had dropped that, but I want to kind of highlight one of the pool pros every week out there. So I did get a message. This week's shout out goes to Pool Girl DEI, and they're from Washington State. John, they were listening to the Instagram Live on Wednesday. So everybody listening, John and I do an Instagram Live every Wednesday, 6:00 Pacific. And so they were on there listening to the Instagram Live and sent us a message that they are going to be out at the Western Pool and Spa Show this coming week. Anyways, big shout out. They're from Washington State. She's bringing the whole crew down to the Western Pool and Spa Show, and she is excited to come out. She's going to come out and meet us. So Pool Girl DEI, make sure that you come out. Let's get some pictures. Let's hang out. Looking forward to it and looking forward to meeting you and the team. And then talking about Washington, our boy Antonio Escalera, big shout out to him. He's got 5 people coming out to the Heritage Boot Camp. He's bringing all his employees out there. He's coming down for the Matrix as well. John, they're talking that they're going to take all the money home for the $10,000 Pool Pro Challenge. All that $1,000 purse, they're saying it's going back to Washington.
Well, it's up for grabs, and I don't see why they can't bring it home.
That's $1,000 right. Look, he's on. Big shout out to Antonio. I didn't know you were on, Antonio. So I got your message. And Antonio, you say that you're taking that $1,000 home with all your pool pros out there. We're looking forward to that. So big shout out to you guys out there. Hey guys, let's kind of get through some housekeeping notes. Tori Holland, what's going on? Look at that, Zach. I just love it, Zach. I love it that she's always on and watching and cheering. And so big shout out to you out there. So for everybody out there, here, we are going to be out at the Western Pool and Spa Show, which is the 12th through the 14th. We are going to be teaching a whole bunch of classes. First one is going to be managing workload and avoiding burnout. The next one is building a profitable business, basic principles of leadership, turning numbers into knowledge, time management strategies, understanding cost, pricing, and profitability, principles of pool chemistry, innovations in algae treatment, and building profit into every sector. So make sure that you go out there. All the classes that we put on and the track that we have out there, the tracks build on top of each other. So make sure that you come out, you're kind of able to follow through that track and take all those classes because everything builds on top of each other. And then that Sunday, we get on a plane and we head out to the Southwest show out in San Antonio. And we are going to be teaching a couple classes out there: operational efficiency, mastering the 4 stages of scalable success, financial metrics, understanding your numbers to drive profitability. Mr. JJ Flawless is going to be teaching in the field water chemistry skills that make a difference. And by the way, I'm bummed, John, because they put us to teach at the same time.
Yeah, we're all going to be riding solo.
You know what, Zach, you're taking financial metrics. I'm going to John's class. So I'm going to send you the PowerPoint. Be ready. You're going to teach that class.
So you don't want to sit in my class.
Like, you've done that class like 1,000 times. So John, that's what I'm doing. I'm going over to see your class.
Perfect.
So here's what I'm going to do, Zach, is I'm going to give you probably like 5 or 6 slides. That way I can run over and kind of sit at John's for a little while and then come back. Then we have driving results through accountability for business success and basic principles of leadership, building trust and inspiring collaboration. Big shout out to you, Michaela Rogers out there from Pool Brain. Big shout out to you. Was watching all of your stuff out in Atlantic City that Pool Brain was out there. Excited about that. We do have some awesome tea that we're going to be spilling later on, and they're part of it. So kind of excited about that, but we got to keep that under wraps. That's like NDA stuff right there. So big shout out to you, Michaela. Heritage Boot Camp is going to be March 12th and 13th in McKinney, Texas at Heritage headquarters. We will be doing hands-on on the 12th. The 13th, we are going to be doing business classes. We're going to be doing chemistry classes. We are going to be doing the first qualifier for the $10,000 Pool Pro Challenge. And there is $1,000 up for the grabs for the top 3 qualifiers. And then on the 14th is the Matrix class. We're going to be in person. We're going to be at Heritage doing the Matrix class. And then from there, we are going to fellow Matrix member Anthony Narlux, ETX Pool Pros, is opening a retail store. So he did an invite for the Matrix members. So if you're a Matrix member, coming out because we want to get out there and support him. And then from there, we have a week off, Zach, and we turn around and we go to the boot camp in Ray-Pac out in Oxnard, California. That's March 27th and 28th. The 27th, we're going to be doing all of the hands-on. 28th, we are doing business. We're doing chemistry. And then we're doing the $10,000 qualifier. And there's another $1,000 up for grabs on that $10,000 qualifier up there. So, boys, as you can hear, it's going to be a busy 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, we got back to that point where we have the housekeeping laundry list. And then as the year goes on, it kind of starts to dwindle down. And we go through that period where there's not really any housekeeping notes. And now we're ramping back up.
Yep. Hey, Michaela said, so sad couldn't make it to Atlantic City with the team. I was stuck in San Diego, LOL. She was stuck in the nice weather. John, we've got a couple busy weeks that are going to be, upon us. Next week will be our last week that we are able to settle down for like a month and a half. Oh, I forgot. I can't believe I forgot this. From the Southwest Pool and Spa Show, we turn around and we go to Florida. To the Orlando Everything Under the Sun show. Completely forgot about that. We'll be out there the 6th and the 7th. So excited about that as well. So see, I just added another week, Zach.
Yeah, we've literally in the next 5-6 weeks is what we used to do in a whole year. So we are definitely not pumping the brakes in 2026. We got quite the year, and we were having a conversation, I don't know, about a week ago, and I was just looking and I was thinking, and all this stuff we love it, right? We do it out of a labor of love, and this is exactly what we want to do. But it's funny because as the years go by, it's like my body compared to my heart and my mind, right? You know what I mean? I have to get them to resync and realign because this is exhausting, and much love and props to all the trainers and educators out there in the industry that do nothing but go from show to show and flying from city to do trainings and stuff. It's tolling, but obviously they wouldn't do it unless they loved it. And we fall into that same category. So I'm really pumped about finally hitting the East Coast. We've been threatening it for a while, and now we're going to be going out to Florida, and not only Florida in March, but we're going to be heading back again later on in the year too, to be announced. But it's go time. So I'm excited and pumped up.
Let's go. And we have a lot of big things that are coming this year that we can't share with everything. We've got two that we keep joking around that we're going to spill the tea. And when we're telling you that they're big, they're the biggest things that we've ever done. And I know that everybody's like, yeah, that's what you guys say every time.
Yeah, like every year it's the same thing, right? Yeah.
But these two things that we're going to announce this year are going to be freaking humongous. And Michaela is saying that she's excited for the tea. Michaela, you just wait to see what it is that we're doing. It's going to be big. I was talking to Kevin from Pool Brain last night. He was all fired up and kind of going, we can do this and we can do that. We can do. I'm like, bro, the opportunity is endless. And then our boy Todd, you guys are kicking ass. Love it. Mr. Todd, we would love to be able to catch up with you, whether at the Western or at the Oxnard boot camp. Want to see how it's going out in Arizona and how business is doing. And man, thank you for all your support for all these years, man. It's absolutely amazing to see you two moving from California out to Arizona. You're just blowing up out there. So looking forward to it. Let's kind of catch up. Boys, I think it's time to get started into this podcast. I think the timing of this podcast is actually perfect because we're kind of talking about all these shows that we're going into, all these boot camps that we have going on, and all these different things that we have going on. And I think it's perfect so that we are able to kind of talk about it with the pool pros, and they can kind of decide what type of education and what is the right education, what's training, what's, so they can really focus on getting that best education during that time of the year. So last week we started it off and we talked about two key things. One of them was upskilling and reskilling. And I think it falls into both of these of the topic that we're going to talk about today. If you didn't listen to the podcast last week, go back and listen to it. It's a great podcast. We talk about upskilling, and I'm going to read really quick the description of upskilling and reskilling so that we can then jump into the podcast. But we talked about upskilling, and that is a process of developing deeper and more advanced skills so a person can perform their current role more effectively, confidently, and consistently, especially as tools, expectations, or complexity increases. And then reskilling is kind of what John and I did. And that was really, it's the process of learning entirely new skills so a person could move into a different role, take on new responsibilities, or adapt to changes in the industry. And what that means, example, me coming from a hotel background, John coming from big box retail store, we really kind of jumped into a completely different industry. We really had to reskill. We had to learn a completely different set of skills. Some of them complemented, but there was a lot of things that were brand new for us. And so as we go into the topic today, really is, I think we want to talk about training. We want to talk about readiness. We want to talk about those skill gaps and really why education is only going to work when it's designed to prepare you. So we wanted to talk about this because I know I talked about all the dates with everything coming on, the Western, the Southwest, everything out under the sun and all those things. But I think, John, Zach, a lot of people confuse being exposed to information. And we're going to talk about this a little bit in our industry because we tend to do this a lot, is really kind of being exposed to information with kind of being able to be prepared to execute that, right? And the training. And I think we do this a lot in our industry. I think a lot of the training style is more informational training is what we would call it, where somebody kind of gets into the front of a class and they're talking about a certain topic and they're sharing the knowledge. And that is a style of training, right? But the challenge with that is it is the style of training that people retain the least. So if you look at that pyramid of learning tree, that style of training, people only are able to retain about 10% of it, right? And as you progress and more of the hands-on and more of the practice and the teaching is really kind of what gives them the mastery of what it is that they do. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I want to bring it to everybody's attention this time of the year. So as they're looking for education, they can kind of look for the ones that are going to be the best. And those are good trainings, right? But there's other opportunities out there as well. So let me ask you guys, from your perspective, why do you think so many people feel confident after learning something, but still struggle when it's time to apply it?
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
So this is Such a great question. Okay. I think we can possibly spend the rest of the podcast talking about this question and really digging deep and dissecting this, because this is the type of stuff that keeps me up, or that I think about and that I process and I do. A lot of times, I know Janie, my kid's the same way too. And the people, I'm like an overthinker sometimes, and I might overanalyze some things or go a little too deep. And like, bro, I just wanted to ask you what was for dinner. You know what I mean? I just wanted to know what we're going to eat for dinner, and then not about the history of this or that or whatever. But
when pasta was invented.
Yes, right. Or how we got to this point, right? You know, how were we able to create and eat this dinner, right? So I'm going to try to keep it a little.
And by the way, John, let me interrupt you, because at your house, I can totally see that conversation going on about when pasta was first introduced into the U.S. and why in Europe they have to make it from scratch, and here it's like ready.
And then now the topic on the psychology of pasta, right? And what does the pasta think? But anyways, thinking about this, there's a couple different ways I can really approach this, but I want to go back and maybe reword that question. Or I think it's more of, you say after learning, but struggle when it's time to apply it. So we all know there's people, there's like three major types of learners, right? Visual learners, audible learners, and then hands-on or physically touching and doing it themselves. I like to look at it from a different approach and think that you might be able to retain some information better visually than you do listening to it, or vice versa. But I don't think you can possibly learn something unless you've actively put it into place, or you've done it. The problem is not that when they say they've learned something, they think they're under the assumption that they've learned it because they went to a class and they heard somebody talk about it. But until they actually put it into practice in the real world and then go through different scenarios or different variables, I don't think one has truly learned something or learned how to do something yet, right?
There's the practice.
But they're on the path. Yeah. So you need to be able to execute it. You need to be able to put it into practice, and you need to be able to do it under different environments and stuff in order for you to really be able to learn it. Where it's very easy for somebody to, we've all been there and we've learned something, or we've been in a class and we kind of get an aha moment, or we think we've learned something because the way it's been explained to them is based off of a certain scenario or lab results or whatever it may be, or this is how you do it in a perfect situation. But we all know when you go out into the real world and we start to involve environmental factors or people or a different set of equipment, or anything, right? That any little variable that comes into play, immediately what happens is we lose that confidence. And the minute we lose that confidence is when we start second guessing ourselves, right? And then where we start, like the human in us starts to like really go, do I really know what I'm doing?
Yeah.
I'm second guessing it. They said this or they said that. So
I think the
problem is they feel confident initially because they went and they learned this, but I think is that confidence quickly dissipates when real life scenarios kind of smacks them in the face, or variables out in the field. And that's okay, right? That's part of learning. But I personally believe you don't truly learn something unless you've been able to replicate it or to do it over and over again. You can't, it's like the difference between being book smart and street smart, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can hear something and you can learn in books and all that good stuff, but real world doesn't abide by those rules.
Yeah. And especially in a backyard, John, where just like you were saying, there's so many different variables. And it could be something as easy as water chemistry, and you learn 3 key points of water chemistry, but then that's if everything is lined up in that perfect equation, and all of a sudden something else came into the equation that now throws that off. And that's where that confidence starts to kind of rattle you. And then you throw a different equation into it, John. You get the homeowner standing over your shoulder, putting that pressure on you, and that confidence just evaporates really quick. So I want to talk a little bit about something, because we live in a world that now information is so available, right? I think, John, when you and I grew up, Zach, were you born before Google?
I was born in 89.
So when did Google? So you were born in 89. So pretty much by the time you grew up, you had Google in your hands, right?
I don't remember anything but Google. So
You don't remember anything but Google, punk. So if you look at,
I remember that, but it's search engines. As far as I remember, we had search engines.
yeah, but like an example for me and for John, that didn't exist when we grew up. Everything was, it was a book. And if you were able to have access to those books and read and know the knowledge, then you were good. Other than that, you couldn't just pull out a phone and kind of search information. And nowadays, there's all kinds of information available.
Encyclopedias.
Oh,
Remember the
yeah.
Encyclopedia Britannica and stuff like that?
Yeah.
That was our Google,
Yeah.
dude. You know what I mean? You kind of learn
Yep.
anything.
So
yeah.
Brian Croissant is saying, Zach, you were born before Google, laughing. And it's like, he might have been born before Google, but by the time he was a kid in his hand, he was already asking Google everything. So Brian, he doesn't know the pain that we go through, right? Back in our day, trying to figure it out, where
Figure out how
nowadays
pasta was made. You have to go in
Yeah.
the book and
yeah, like back then, there was no really kind of theory to it. It was just like the pasta was just there. But anyways, nowadays there's so much information. AI is out there. It's very powerful. You have access to all the information in the world. But that also just doesn't mean learning. There's a big difference between learning and training and being able to capture the information and then, more importantly, put it into play. And that's the most important part of the training and the education. And I think a lot of people kind of tend to go, okay, well, I'll just use YouTube. I could just kind of go find a YouTube and I could just learn using YouTube. And there's nothing wrong with that. And you can pick up things with YouTube and you could do certain things. But that kind of falls into the same type of education that we're talking about, where it's really kind of somebody just talking about the topic.
yeah, and I think I want to kind of tag on to what you and John are saying. I think that the point is that there's learning and then there's training and there's execution. And like you said, in today's world, there is just information on demand and it just gets faster and faster. And there's more and more resources for it every day that goes by. And then now we're in a world where not all information is good information. And so we have to kind of cipher through all of that. And I think things, when you talk about online learning, I think there's a great place for that. And that is, gives all of us a huge advantage. But we have to understand that when we're learning something, or say, like in your example, watching some online video, we're watching someone teach us how to do something, right? Change out your water heater or whatever. We're hearing explanations. We're kind of seeing them go through the process, maybe getting some tips and things like that. But at the end of the day, when we walk away from watching that video, we don't truly have the skills needed to go change that water heater. And I think that's where training is really important, and going through the process, like John was saying, like actually doing it, all the variables that come into play. I don't know how many YouTube videos or online videos I've watched to do something, and then when you get 3 minutes into it, there's problems almost every time. So I think the point is that you can watch a lot of things, learn a lot of things. Like you said, it's one of the lower ways of retaining information, but that doesn't actually prove that we can execute whatever it is.
Yeah, it goes back to those, what John was saying is the variables, right? And you just talked about it, obviously 3 minutes in, 3 steps in, and now it's not like it was in the video. And then you're scrambling, trying to find another video that shows how to fix that variable that just kind of came in. And so learning on YouTube is really kind of not the same as that structured, well done training that's going to give you the skill to when you're out there. So let's talk a little bit about information versus training. And I'll throw this out kind of probably to both of you, but when people say that they're getting educated, what do you think that usually means?
I mean, again, I think that kind of falls back into what we were talking about a little bit earlier. But when I hear that, I look at it as when someone's saying that they're getting educated or they're going to a training or they're going to learn, I look at it as, one, it's the road or the beginning, right, of where they want to be or where they're looking to be or something that they want to acquire or do. And not necessarily meaning that after they go get educated, it's like the first step of truly being educated or learning a new skill. I look at it as a very positive thing when I hear it, because one, when someone says, I'm going to go learn something, I think of it as like probably one of the coolest things that you can do is as a human being, period, or especially working in a trade, is knowing and accepting that we don't know everything and we want to better ourselves or do better. And to take it back a couple steps, that's the whole purpose of what we're talking about here, right? We're not talking about saying that certain education, Zach, you touched on it, that isn't necessarily the right way of doing it. It's how we perceive it and understand that there is so much more to it than just that. And it takes an effort from you, not only the person that is training you or trying to teach you this information, but in a classroom style settings, you're limited to what you're able to truly teach somebody or the information that you can give. Because when you go to put it into action, unless you have that person on your shoulder, you know what I mean? Go, oh, I remember the first time, like wiring a pump, right? I think when I was learning, and it was like, I saw if I remember correctly, many moons ago, and I'm sitting there and I'm doing it, I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, but the video, the colors were, I think they were like different colors, right? And then when I open it up, it was, and I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? I thought that the colors were supposed to all be the same. And I froze, right? Because there's a variable that I didn't account for, you know what I mean? But I wouldn't have learned that unless I experienced it. Because now I have that information. Now I can go back to the person that trained me or taught me, or the next time in that class, maybe I can ask that question, right? And then now get that answer. So it's a process, right? This is a journey. It's not a one-day thing, and then all of a sudden you're a pro at
and I'll give you another example, John. And this is probably a perfect one. So you look at changing pump seals on a pump, right? You could watch a video, right? And you're going to take that impeller, and the impeller is what? Reverse thread, right? But if you're just kind of watching a video, you might not keep that in your brain. And then all of a sudden you get there and you're kind of trying, and you're like,
or you're talking about, like the impeller screw, like, right? You know what I mean? When you have to, I get what you're
like,
talking about.
Well, wait a second. What's going right now? If you've been in a training class and you've been in one of AquaStar's training class and you're having to unscrew that, now you've actually gone through that process, and it kind of takes a little bit of that variable off.
Yeah. And it's a small portion of it. And it's like, there are so many different situations that can come up, but eventually the beauty of it is, if after you've been through it and after you've done it enough, you start to understand and appreciate those variables, and you can account for them and then be able to change on the fly or figure it out, because you have that base knowledge, right? So there's it's like multifaceted, multi-parts. Getting educated isn't something that happens over a weekend or over a day. It takes repetition, it takes dedication, and it takes consistency in training. And, a lot of people sometimes they go, oh, I've done that class before, or I've done this before. And I go, well, you know what I mean? You need to do more and more of it, right? Until it becomes muscle memory. I know I need to, it's like our bodies are the same way too. We have to teach ourselves subconsciously to do things, or to be able to do things naturally. And the only way of doing it is doing it repeatedly. So I chuckle sometimes when I hear that, oh, I'm going to go get educated real quick. And I'm like, okay. But I think it's a very positive, it's music to my ears when I hear people say that, because I think slowly but surely, and hopefully, before there was a lot of days of people like, oh, I already know, or you can't teach me, or I already know everything, or no, this is how you do it. And, my grandpa's uncle's best friend told me this is how you do it, right? You know what I mean? Okay. But I see that slowly but surely dissipating, but that's kind of my take.
Zach, I have a question for you, and we'll take your answer to this question and then we'll take a break. But what's the difference between learning something and being trained on something? I think that's a big important thing to kind of clarify.
I think, like you were talking about just a minute ago, at the information versus training, when I think of learning, I think of the mental aspect of it. I think of like kind of getting the understanding. I think more of like reading and absorbing, kind of questioning, going through that and figuring out why something is done a certain way. Where when we talk about training, and like John was saying, putting it into practice, I think that's where you're going through the physical motion of doing the task and encountering some of the variables and doing the work. And like John said, it's all about reps and getting the reps in. And when we talk about education as a whole, I think education kind of encompasses both of those concepts. And I think that, like you're saying, one is not better than the other necessarily, or one is not worse than the other. But I think that when we're talking about, like we're talking about now, we've got all this different education coming up in our industry and kind of preparing for that. It's like, how can you do multiple things to get the best of both worlds, so that now you're getting this fully complemented education where you're learning you're practicing, you're training, and you're getting a full understanding. But yeah, like you said, it's all about building that muscle, all about getting the reps in, because a lot of times when we do fail or we encounter that variable, that's where the real understanding comes in.
And a couple things here real quick before we take that break. Todd from Ripple Effect, over 35 years in the industry and still learning. You can't stop learning. And in our industry, that is so true, right? There's every day that you go out there, there's something that you learn. Justin with RayPack is going, the area that we see the majority of the people needing more training is gas line and venting installation. Hard to do in a classroom. Just absolutely, 100%. And a lot of times it's challenging us. And how do we change that, right? How do we integrate new things to do that? Because that's something that's kind of what you were talking about, Zach, which is just kind of the learning aspect of it, right? It's hard to kind of train in that classroom setting. Brian Croissant is saying, in the words of David Haas, get a new gold nugget for learning for your bucket of knowledge. Keep getting trained up. So absolutely. Guys, let's do this. Let's take a word from our sponsors. John, I have another question for you when we come back, and that's going to be, why does watching, listening, and reading feel productive, even though no real skills have been built yet? We'll be right back.
Pool pros have specific needs when it comes to general liability insurance. The SPPA program has you covered. With 3 tailored and customizable general liability options, SPPA makes it easy for pool pros to feel secure. Find out more and get covered at thesppa.com. U.S. Motors Neptune Variable Speed Motor provides a versatile replacement solution for all your pool pump motor needs. This motor can communicate with pool control systems, provide low voltage options to work with time clocks, and can be installed as a standalone pump motor. The Neptune motor can be easily installed on existing pumps, upgrading them to a variable speed pump without the need for replumbing. Enjoy energy savings and quiet operation by installing a Neptune Variable Speed Motor today. For more information and to find your local distributor, visit usmotors.com/pool. Blu-ray XL is the power of minerals working for you. Reduce your overall chemical costs and labor up to 50% guaranteed. Whether you have 20 accounts or 20,000, Blu-ray XL's direct pricing and free shipping to the pool trade have you covered. Improving pool professionals' profit and work-life balance is what they do. Blu-ray XL, the real mineral purifier. Visit them at BluRayXL.com.
Blu-ray all day.
Meet the Pipeline Pump from Aquastar Pool Products, the next generation of variable speed pumps designed for serious efficiency. At its core is a high-performance permanent magnet motor that's totally enclosed and fan-cooled, delivering consistent energy-saving operation. Paired with Aquastar's patented high-efficiency volute design, the Pipeline Pump maintains optimal flow while cutting down on energy use. And it's not just efficient, it's incredibly quiet. Thanks to a high-tech rubber motor mount that absorbs vibrations and dampens sound, the Pipeline runs smooth and quiet by limiting turbulence. Its 2.5-inch internal frame ensures unrestricted water flow, and it's available in both 1.5 HP and 3.0 HP models, each with 2-inch and 2.5-inch union fittings for flexible and efficient installation. Experience the Pipeline difference: incredibly quiet operation, peak efficiency, and proven performance. Ask your supplier for the Pipeline Pump from Aquastar. Available now. Care Solutions, for over 30 years, is proud to provide products that make pool service easier than ever before. Its unique enzyme formulations in Pro Series Pro Blend improve efficiency of your pool program while reducing frequency of filter cleaning and scum lines. Natural Chemistry is also well known for its wide variety of phosphate removal solutions that include a non-clouding formula in Phos-Free and extremely high-range removal with Pro Series Phos Remove or Phos-Free Max. Save time, save money, save work with Pro Series products. Stop sacrificing durability or efficiency with the help of RayPack's new Avia HD models that utilize NITEC, their exclusive industry-first technology. NITEC heat exchanger technology is RayPack's latest solution to superior strength and maximum efficiency when it comes to residential pool heating. With 900% more nickel compared to copper nickel in critical surfaces, NITEC creates an ideal surface to protect against scale formation and erosion without compromising on Avia's 84% thermal efficiency. Learn more at raypack.com/NITEC. The next evolution in lighting is here. Universal Color Logic 2.0 from Hayward. The latest in pool and spa lighting was designed with you in mind, making installation a breeze. Upgrades include a detachable cord and first-of-a-kind adjustable lower catch to overcome variations in plaster thickness. As always, Universal Color Logic lights retrofit into virtually any in-ground pool or spa while delivering industry-leading, vibrant color. Visit hayward.com to discover more.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Pool Nation Live Podcast. Big, huge shout out to our boy Zach there. Did you see how he saved us, John?
I was preparing to do the transition back in. My heart was racing.
Nice. I love it. So for everybody, obviously people don't kind of catch this, but obviously we have the words from our sponsors and stuff like that. And we kind of start to get to the end of it. And we're always kind of preparing and getting ready and stuff like that. And normally I watched that and I like totally spaced it. And so Zach had our back and sent a quick message on WhatsApp and was like, hey, last commercial, where are you guys at?
Alarm.
Zach would have just left the screen blank on his end too and just waited. Right?
He would have been like that time that one of the Kardashians, they asked him a question she didn't want to answer. And she's like, and they're like, you're not frozen. We can see you blink. That would have been Zach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyways, glad to be back. Guys, I'm so fired up. We're kind of back into a rhythm. We're back into our thing. A lot of great stuff was messaging some people on here. Justin had a great point on really kind of how do we fix that? And that's kind of where I get fixated sometimes on trying to find a solution. So Justin, I added that to my list of to do to figure out how we can change that and how do we make it more interactive. And there are certain things that you just can't practice, that you just can't duplicate in a hands-on scenario or a training scenario and stuff like that. You just can't. But how do we change that? How do we change that?
What we're doing right now, right?
Right.
We're talking about it, brainstorming, figuring out ways, coming up with new innovative ways to train and think outside the box, and not taking the easy path of the way we've always done it before doesn't necessarily mean it's the right way. So we just got to keep changing and putting our heads together and figuring out new, better ways to get people motivated and to teach and to make it stick. And we need to figure it out.
Zach says he's got an idea.
Oh boy. I don't know if I can handle both of you now with ideas.
Oh, no, this is definitely an offline idea for you guys.
Okay.
Okay.
Zach is probably going, hey, I have 3 pools that need venting. Can you send people out to train and make them do it? That's his idea.
It's a good idea. You'll like it.
So I have an idea too, Zach, but I could share it. So, all right, Zach, John, back to you. So before we left, I asked, why does watching, listening, or reading feel productive even when no skill has been built yet?
Man, wow, dude, these are good questions, Edgar. I'm giving you.
Did you notice my questions on the Instagram live?
Bro, I'm very proud of you, man. Like, you've really leveled up. And I don't know if it's, look, again, here we're back. I'm going off topic here. I don't know if it's either that you've actually gotten better at it, or it's that you are thinking that I can answer these better. You know what I mean? Where before you thought that I wasn't capable, you were just giving me
I was pitching underhand.
Right? Yeah, you're like, bro, it's on a tee, dude. You should be able to hit this, right? Don't worry.
Freaking John.
No, this is a really good question. What I mean by good, they're very thought provoking, right? And it's not. I love questions that aren't cut and dry, black and white, right? That really inspire critical thinking, and where there could be multiple opinions that can not contradict, but could oppose each other and still be correct. I look at it like, I was thinking about this when you asked this on the break, and I'm like, what kind of analogy am I going to be able to come up with on this one? And I came back to what you were talking about earlier about Google and stuff like that. And I remember the days when you didn't know a new restaurant opened up or a new place opened up or how to get somewhere really unless you were familiar with the area. And if you ever needed to travel somewhere, you had to look up a map or kind of go by it and by just happenstance, you know what I mean? And just, I just happened to go by this place and see this place opened up. Information wasn't so readily available to you. And there were times where we were so frustrated where if I was going to take a journey somewhere out of town or out of state or to go somewhere, you really didn't know. And you had to travel and do something and go across roadblocks or road closures or this doesn't exist anymore, or whatever it may be. And it wasn't quite as easy. I guess I wouldn't say it was frustrating because we didn't know what we know now, but I look at it like nowadays, when you want to learn something, you have information on demand.
At your fingertips.
And you do. And it's like when you watch something, when you listen to something, like you're saying, the reason why you feel productive, I think, is because you can just type it into GPS, right? And you're put on the right path. What's going on? What Brian said something?
Zach sends me, Zach sends me a message. What a punk. He sends me a message. He sends it on our WhatsApp group. He goes, man, it must have been tough for you guys.
Wow, dude. It was rough, dude.
You made it sound like you're in wagons or something.
It felt like it, bro. Compared to now, are you kidding me? It is so easy. It wasn't that easy.
You've been making it sound like we grew up in 1955.
Yeah. Oregon Trail. Oregon Trail, right?
Oh my God, you're killing me.
That up.
But to go back to it, the reason why people think or why they feel so confident, especially like me now, is you're on the right track and you're not wasting your time and you're not spinning your wheels. You got the information, you're doing what you're doing, and at least you're heading in the right direction. Nothing worse than going out to a heater or going out to a problem and having absolutely zero clue what the hell's going on and saying, now fix this. I remember we were, again, stop me if I go off on a tangent here, Edgar, but it's been a while. It's been a month since I've had
we're just letting you get the
we're rolling
back
with
in.
it. We were at a house. We were putting in a heater. We're putting in a filter pump, a whole new pad. And we had Nick with us, and we're training Nick, and I'm showing him, and I was teaching him Janie was with him too, and we're teaching him how to put the electrical in and how to do this or how to do that. And he walks away, and after helping putting that heater in, he said, "Oh, that was easy, right?" And I'm like, "Really, bro? You know what I mean? That was easy." And it's like, well, yeah, it's easy because somebody's there telling you exactly what you need to do, where to put it, and stuff like that. I go, but if I just plopped you right there and I said, here's the heater, here's that, go for it. Do you think you would have been done in 30 minutes? Or would you still be there next week banging your head up against the wall trying to figure out what the hell's going on? And to kind of put that into perspective for people sometimes, because they get this confidence and they watch a YouTube video and they go, oh, I got this code, or the heater's short cycling, and this must be what the problem is, right? And then you go right out there and then you go and you're like, nope, that wasn't it, bro. You know what I mean? It was like something else.
John, think about it. You go out and you do your first heater repair and you turn it on and you don't hear that boosh. Your confidence is boom, gone. You're like, oh, dude, crap. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's like,
there's just so many things and I think that's what it is, right? And what it comes down to is when you're watching a video on your phone or when you're learning or reading a book, you get that confidence because, you're gaining some knowledge or you're feeling like you're on the right track. But what does it do? It removes the risk because you're not actually putting it into play or into action, or you're actually executing. You're watching somebody else do it, or you're learning how somebody else did that specific problem, right?
It just takes the risk out.
It does take the risk out. And then you go out and you do it and you're like, I promise you 9 out of 10 times, you're going to run into something, and it never goes perfectly. And I think that's where people fall into that trap. And it's important to understand when you do hit that roadblock or you do run into that wall, that you don't get depressed about it, right? You don't get frustrated about it, that you understand that's a part of learning, right? That is part of the journey of learning. And you need to apply it and do it more and learn more and more. And then eventually you'll get to the point where you will be able to go out there and you will be able to do it and practice it in life.
And you see most of the variables, right? I talk about it all the time. Guys, when I went from hotels over to pools, man, I worked in hotels. I had engineering teams. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to worry about managing any of that. So I didn't do anything. Anytime I needed anything done at home, we just hired somebody and we did all those things. And so for Leanne, it was like, you're going to go do something that requires you how to do repairs to be able to survive. And I'm like, I'm going to learn it. And I tell everybody, man, if I can learn it by repetition, because that's all it is. It's just repetition and then learning every one of those variables. So I tried to fix this heater and I did this and that didn't work. So therefore, now I learned that if I do this, I don't get the outcome that I want. I got to try something different. And it's the same thing with water chemistry or anything. It could be that you have a green pool, and it could be that you go to that green pool, John, and you dump 8 gallons of chlorine and it clears up, and you do that at the next pool and that doesn't work. And then at that point you go, oh, well, shoot, what worked on the last one doesn't work on this one. Your confidence is gone but it's going to force you to look at other things. What are the CYA levels? What are the TDSs? And once you kind of are exposed to those variables, which are repetition, right? Because it's just pools and you're just repeating and repeating, you're going to learn it by that pure repetition, which takes me to the next question for Zach. Why do you think repetition and practice are often the missing pieces in education?
Well, I think, again, today, like a lot of the information is on demand. And I think that a lot of people there's so much they can learn from that on demand information that they don't take the time to seek out the actual training. And I could think of a couple quick examples I was thinking about it, like gardening, or you're going to learn to grow a garden, or you're going to learn to take care of a saltwater fish tank. And it's like you can go online and you can find endless amounts of videos and things to learn from that will leave you feeling like, okay, I'll go out. I know what I need to buy. I know what I need to do. I know how I need to set it up. But it doesn't mean at the end of the day that you're going to have a successful garden, or you're not going to have a fish tank that fails. And so I think that it's important that when we have an opportunity to get that training, especially if we can get it in a more controlled environment, it's important to take that so we're not practicing this in someone's backyard. And another great example that I can think of is working out, right? So you can learn and you can figure out a diet plan and a program, and you're going to put all this together. But if you don't actually go out and do the reps and do the work and do the training, then you won't have the results that you're looking for. So I think it's important as an industry that we focus on that aspect of it. And I think it's important for us as technicians to be not only just seeking that online information or that readily available on demand information, but looking for that training that we can get.
I want to jump in and add a little bit on that one too, Edgar. I think this is part of the problem as well when it comes down to being able to retain information and actually burn it into our brain holes, right? So that we get it, is that we learn something. I can tell you, I've been to hundreds of classes where, oh, wow, I learned it, but I don't get to see that particular situation where that applies, or until maybe 6 months down the road. And the problem is you can go learn how to wire a pump or how to fix a heater, how to do this, but it's not like we have 30 heaters out on a route right now that are down and with that problem that you can go out and actually fix and do. And you might not get that error, or you might not have that symptom for another 3 months, or it's summertime and nobody's using their heater. You learned about it. And now wintertime comes around, when people are starting to use their heater, but you learned something 5 months ago or 6 months ago. What are the chances that you're actually going to retain that information and have it in your brain to be able to go out there and actually put it into play or into action? And I think that's where we fail sometimes in truly learning how to do something or educating ourselves, is because we get all this wonderful, great information, but then how do we apply it the next day? How do we immediately put it into play or use it so that we can cement it into our memory so that we know how to do this? I think that's how do you change that? I don't know. It's tough. There's not every single scenario available to you, especially if you're just learning and you don't have a route, or you just bought a route, or you're just getting into the pool industry and you're learning all this stuff, but yet you don't have
1,000 things.
Yeah. And all this stuff but you don't have a way to put it into practice yet. I think that's where it becomes very difficult, and why people need to constantly revisit these training topics and retake them and relearn them so that when the time does come, they're prepared for it.
I do have a question for you, John. I'm going to throw another question at you, because I believe, and you talked about this a little bit, but I want to talk about it. And I think specifically the pool industry is very vulnerable when it comes to what I'm going to ask you. And I think the problem exists everywhere, right? I don't think it's just the pool industry, but it shows up a little bit differently for us in the pool industry. And what is it that makes pools such a difficult environment to learn in? Because you get this in other industries where certain are things, but for some reason, to me personally, it feels like a lot of that learning, it's a tough environment in the pool industry.
It is. And I think another great question. And I think what's different about what we do, our job, and we've talked about this, the environment that a lot of the stuff that we do, especially when it comes down to chemistry and stuff like that, you can't really see it. You don't get to,
you can't replicate it.
You can't, yeah. And it's like a lot of the things are happening behind the scenes. It's like the fear of the unknown, right? Yeah, I poured this. And on top of that, I think it's more of like, we have to deal with lives and safety of people as well. And, you know, when you add that risk to it, there becomes, I don't know, a bit of resistance inside, or lack of confidence, or being scared or worried about it. I don't know what it is, but I agree with you. Something about it's just a little bit more difficult than other tools or other things that you might learn or do that necessarily aren't life-threatening if you do them wrong. And with our industry, like I was saying, is just so many different variables that come into play. And it's not just you and the item, it's you and the person, right? You know what I mean? It's you and the environment, it's you and the water. It's just so many different things that come into play. And I don't think it's truly appreciated.
Not only that, like the different skills that we have to have, like there's a huge variety where, you know, I know there's other industries out there in similar position, but if I were to go do lawn care, I feel like there's a more focused kind of effort there, where what we're dealing with, like the whole traditional thing that everyone talks about, we're electricians, we're mechanics, we're chemists, we're renovators, we're customer service advocates, all of the above. In every one of those things, like there is entire industries focused on those. So when you talk about variables in scenarios, it's like, to create the amount of variables and scenarios that would need to like truly create a polished person that's ready to go out in the field, it's an astronomical amount of situations that, you know, you can concoct, I guess.
Yeah, and for especially John was talking a little bit about there. Hey, big huge shout out to Doug Holcomb. Big shout out to your brother out here working hard. Appreciate that, brother. So John, I think, yes, a lot of the challenge is, like you were saying, you can go to a different industry. Zach, like you were saying, you could go to a different industry and you learn about plumbing, and then now you're just kind of an expert in that one field. When we talk about pool guys and pool girls and maintaining pools, John, you talked about it. Those are live environments and the variables are endless, right? Like you can have endless different combinations of things that are happening in a pool. And therefore, sometimes you're just not trained for everything because they're live environments and they're constantly changing. It's not like HVAC where you go and there's this piece of equipment and you're going to deal with the freon and you're going to deal with the compressor and that's it. You're done. There's not a lot of variables kind of coming into it. With pools, it's a live environment, so it's constantly changing. So what you learn in that book might not specifically relate to what's happening in that pool because there's something else that kind of came into the equation. And I think that's why for us, especially for the Pool Pros guys, is I really believe that that's why the pool industry really isn't forgiving to a lot of those pool pros that don't spend the time sharpening that skill and being pros at it. And those are the ones that we kind of see us struggle a little bit in those backyard and lose customers and then kind of drop out because it's a live environment. It's constantly changing.
100%.
I was going to wait till John said something because he kind of went quiet. So there's a couple of questions that I have that I want to get to, and I want to make sure that we have some time to get through. But yeah, John, you were exactly right. I'm kind of looking at some of the other questions that we have here, and we've kind of gotten through a quarter of this. So I think we might turn this into a two-part, but I do have two more questions that I want to get to before we finish this podcast. So let me kind of pick and choose here my next two questions because I probably have like 10. But Zach, let me ask you this. Why do you think that working alone in the field changes the stakes when it comes to that readiness that we need to have as professionals?
Well, I think the game changes when you're out there alone. And it's kind of like John was saying earlier. It's one thing when you're installing the heater and you've got that safety net there kind of monitoring and coaching and correcting, or that you can, hey, does this look okay right here? Is this how I'm supposed to do it? Okay, great. Thank you. When you're alone, you don't have that. And a lot of times you have the customer coming out and talking to you and getting involved, and it could be really stressful. And that's where mistakes can be made. And that's where, you know, that confidence, if you don't have that confidence because you haven't gotten that training, it's going to be really tough in that situation. So that's why it's so important that we look at, again, I'm going to go back to this, like what opportunities to train can I get before going about this alone? And I mean, in your guys' cases and mine too, you talk about having someone else kind of show you in the beginning, or at least leaning into someone else, and they can go out and help you with that rather than just looking at a YouTube or an online video, going out there and then trying to attempt that by yourself and then crossing your fingers and seeing what happens.
And that's why we talk about it all the time, right? That's why it's so important for us. And Zach, you great point. But here's the other thing that I want to plug in here before we move on to the next question. And that is, you have to go to these trainings, right? You have to go to these shows. You have to go to this education. It's education that's well done, that's perfected for the pool pro. The other thing is the networking aspect of it. Like, how are you going to be able to, you might not be able to have the little guy on the shoulder, but do you have your lifeline to be able to pick up the phone and call John and say, hey, John, I'm at this pool. I'm trying to get this done. I got the customer over my shoulder. I tried to do this thing that I watched over the YouTube video. That didn't work. I need help. And going to these shows and getting out of that comfort zone and meeting these other people is going to give you that big, huge network.
And so, and sometimes that fails you too. Look, and this is completely off topic, but it's as a joke. Not a joke, but you'll find this funny and you'll appreciate this about learning. And I know a lot of it, we talk about how the customer's home becomes like our playground or the testing grounds or ground zero, or mistakes happen because
training field.
It is, right? They're the guinea pig. And I remember the first account that we got. We still have this account to this day. And I learned everything I possibly could about chemistry and, you know what I mean, and that I thought that I could learn or know. And when I wasn't very familiar with swimming pools, we never had one as a kid growing up. My godmother and my godfather had a swimming pool that when we went to visit them, we would go swimming. But I mean, I was young, really, really young. So I had no real experience with a swimming pool, just what you see on TV or in the movies or whatever it may be. So when you walk to a backyard, you expect the water to be clear, blue, or whatever. Well, this pool, when we walked to the backyard, or when I did, I was by myself, it looked green. And I didn't say anything to the customer because I didn't understand or I didn't know. And I'm kind of doing my thing or whatever. But I remember spending, that pool that I said that I would spend
10 hours there.
10 hours a day, like 5 days a week. And they're like, man, this is amazing service, John. You know what I mean? But it was like, I get to play with the pool, right? And do this or do that because I was so like paranoid. But this was that same pool. And I kept thinking that the water was green, and I would shock it like I was being taught. And I was, you know what I mean? I would make sure pH was in line, make sure I had my chlorine, break point chlorination, whatever I was learning back then, which really had nothing to do with that. But I'm really, you know what I mean? But I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'm like, damn, I cannot get this water to get clear. It's green. And then I learned, it could be, and I asked, it could be metals, right? Metals are in the water. And I'm like, okay. So sequestering agents, right? And this and that and whatever it may be, and testing, but no copper's in the water, nothing's in the water. And I'm just beating myself over the head with it, dumping ungodly amounts of chemicals in this pool, with all this snake oil, whatever it is to try to make this water look clear, but it never changed. You know what I mean? It was still green. And finally, I learned, because I started paying attention and looking at different pools on my route as I went, and it was just the color of the pebble tech, right? So if you look at it, when water reflects light based off of the color, so it was a brown, sandy brown pebble tech, and it's very popular out here. And anytime you have that type of finish, the water's going to have
the tint to it,
because that's how it looks. But that's what it was. One of the things that, I'm talking about anyways, I was just kidding and just thinking and laughing at myself. Those are the struggles that pool pros go through, and you don't get to realize it unless you actually put it into practice, or you do it in the real world. Because I haven't heard of anybody ever talk about that at any class. Oh, your pool's green, this is why, or it's because of copper, or it's because of this. But nobody talks about, it could be because of the shade of that, right? But they should be talking about it.
I had pools that had the greenish pebble tech bottom to it, and that's kind of what the customer wanted, and that's what he got. And he did have that little light greenish tint look to it that every week, man. Now, obviously, it was that one I knew. It wasn't the brownish, it was a green, so it was a lot more obvious. But
no, yeah, this was brown. And I think, remember, we emptied the pool, we filled it back up, and it's still grumbling. What? You know what I mean?
That's so awesome.
That's
so
the
awesome.
foliage, the reflection of the foliage tripped me up one time. Have you ever had that where it makes the water look green, and then after going through, I was like, oh, it's just literally their backyard and the way it's reflecting and stuff.
Sure. 100%.
That's crazy.
That does it as well. Yeah. It's
big shout out to Lauren Broom. She says, hi, yes, education. Just got back from educating in Atlantic City. She is actually at the Orlando Airport baggage claim coming back, and she is listening to Pool Nation. So big shout out to you out there. We got to connect. John, I have one more question that I want to close the podcast with today with, and we'll do a part 2 on this, but you're talking about this. We're talking about having to go out there and pools training grounds. It's where we kind of go and learn. Do you think that the industry has normalized figuring things out on the fly?
Well, yeah, 1,000%. I think that's the way the majority of the people were taught themselves.
It's just to figure it out.
You know, and it's just figure it out. And I think that's just a frustration that's not acceptable personally. I think it requires those that tend to be the most successful in this industry are able to figure it out on the fly or whatever it may be. I get that, but at what cost and at whose expense? And especially when it comes down to the importance of our job and when it comes down to the safety of that we're responsible for as professionals in that backyard, this is not something that you should just figure it out. How dangerous could it have been? These people weren't home, right, where I was at. It was their 4th or 5th home. They weren't there. And I basically had this pool as like a laboratory doing what I'm doing. But imagine if there was kids or people who are swimming and I didn't know better and I'm adding this or I'm adding that. And somebody ends up getting hurt because at the expense of me trying to educate myself, I think is unacceptable. Right. And it's our duty and our responsibilities as professionals and as trainers or teachers, as vendors, as manufacturers, right, to make sure that the people that are out there representing your products or the people out there that are doing the work for us are properly trained. And we don't just, it's not baptism by fire. That's the way of the old. And that's the reason why we created Pool Nation, was to stop that, because there's too many people spinning their wheels. We've lost too many good people in our industry from frustration of lack of education or some form of structure. I know we're going in the right direction, especially the last few years. We're really making the right move, but I think that is the old mentality. And I think we need to do better as an industry and not just say, figure it out, just like I did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
And Todd is on here and he's saying that's the way that it was back in the old days. We didn't have technology that everybody's got nowadays. Also, back in the day, nobody wanted to network and it was really hard to network. I agree 100%. And when I came into the industry, it was exactly like that. It was just really kind of difficult and it was figure it out type mentality. And I don't want to say that, I just think that's the way that the industry grew. It just evolved into that over time. But I think it's like you're saying, it's time to change that. It's time to really kind of take that different approach for the industry. And we hear it all the time, right? We hear a lot of these companies like, oh, we want the pool professionals to be more professional and be more educated and be more. Well, you have to do more. So if you're a company that out there, you have to do more. You have to invest in your customers in order to be able to kind of get them there so that we're able to change the industry step by step into that next phase of what we need it to be. Boys, let's take our final word from our sponsors. When we come back, I'm going to get your final thoughts. We'll be right back.
Pool pros have specific needs when it comes to general liability insurance. The SPPA program has you covered. With 3 tailored and customizable general liability options, SPPA makes it easy for pool pros to feel secure. Find out more and get covered at thesppa.com. U.S. Motors Neptune Variable Speed Motor provides a versatile replacement solution for all your pool pump motor needs. This motor can communicate with pool control systems, provide low voltage options to work with time clocks, and can be installed as a standalone pump motor. The Neptune motor can be easily installed on existing pumps, upgrading them to a variable speed pump without the need for replumbing. Enjoy energy savings and quiet operation by installing a Neptune Variable Speed Motor today. For more information and to find your local distributor, visit usmotors.com/pool. Blu-ray XL is the power of minerals working for you. Reduce your overall chemical costs and labor up to 50% guaranteed. Whether you have 20 accounts or 20,000, Blu-ray XL's direct pricing and free shipping to the pool trade have you covered. Improving pool professionals' profit and work-life balance is what they do. Blu-ray XL, the real mineral purifier. Visit them at BluRayXL.com.
Blu-ray all day.
Meet the Pipeline Pump from Aquastar Pool Products, the next generation of variable speed pumps designed for serious efficiency. At its core is a high-performance permanent magnet motor that's totally enclosed and fan-cooled, delivering consistent energy-saving operation. Paired with Aquastar's patented high-efficiency volute design, the Pipeline Pump maintains optimal flow while cutting down on energy use. And it's not just efficient, it's incredibly quiet. Thanks to a high-tech rubber motor mount that absorbs vibrations and dampens sound, the Pipeline runs smooth and quiet by limiting turbulence. Its 2.5-inch internal frame ensures unrestricted water flow, and it's available in both 1.5 HP and 3.0 HP models, each with 2-inch and 2.5-inch union fittings for flexible and efficient installation. Experience the Pipeline difference: incredibly quiet operation, peak efficiency, and proven performance. Ask your supplier for the Pipeline Pump from Aquastar. Available now. Care Solutions, for over 30 years, is proud to provide products that make pool service easier than ever before. Its unique enzyme formulations in Pro Series Pro Blend improve efficiency of your pool program while reducing frequency of filter cleaning and scum lines. Natural Chemistry is also well known for its wide variety of phosphate removal solutions that include a non-clouding formula in Phos-Free and extremely high-range removal with Pro Series Phos Remove or Phos-Free Max. Save time, save money, save work with Pro Series products. Stop sacrificing durability or efficiency with the help of Raypak's new Avia HD models that utilize NITEC, their exclusive industry-first technology. NITEC heat exchanger technology is Raypak's latest solution to superior strength and maximum efficiency when it comes to residential pool heating. With 900% more nickel compared to copper nickel in critical surfaces, NITEC creates an ideal surface to protect against scale formation and erosion without compromising on Avia's 84% thermal efficiency. Learn more at raypak.com/NITEC. The next evolution in lighting is here. Universal Color Logic 2.0 from Hayward. The latest in pool and spa lighting was designed with you in mind, making installation a breeze. Upgrades include a detachable cord and first-of-a-kind adjustable lower catch to overcome variations in plaster thickness. As always, Universal Color Logic lights retrofit into virtually any in-ground pool or spa while delivering industry-leading, vibrant color. Visit Hayward.com to discover more.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Pool Nation Live podcast. We continue our conversation here today, kind of talking about, obviously, the training. There's a lot of education that's going to be going out there over the next several weeks. This is our busy season for shows and education and all those things. And want to make sure that you kind of get out there, get the right training, get your teams out there. Once the season starts, we all know how difficult it is to be able to take time. It's almost impossible unless you're able to do kind of something quick in the office to be able to train some of these people. But this is the perfect time to be able to get them out. I do have to say the education costs in our industry are peanuts compared to a lot of other industries that are out there. I look at it all the time, and I look at all these different courses and stuff like that that are $1,500, $2,000 to be able to kind of get people to go through training. And if you have 10 employees, think about it, $1,500 per person. That's a little bit too much, right? So you go to these shows, look at the Western is what? I think like $110, and you can take all the classes that you could take. That's completely unheard of. And so when you go to all these different shows, the Southwest show, there's a lot of seminars that are free. You go to the Orlando show, it's the same thing. When you go to the boot camps that we do, it's the same thing, right? You're going to get a difference in pricing, but it's very inexpensive compared to what a lot of other industries offer out there. So make sure that you're trying to get the right information. Let's get some final thoughts here. Zach, final thoughts.
I'm glad we talked about this today. And I know we kind of timed it with everything coming up. And I think it is a super important topic. And in my opinion, and I know you guys are the same way, like John said, this is what the evolution and creation of Pool Nation was for, is that education is king. And you got to work for it. You got to seek it. You got to go do the work of getting the education, sitting in the class, learning, absorbing. And then you have to go out and you have to practice it. And at the end of the day, that's how you become proficient in something or become an expert in your field. This doesn't just happen. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. And so that being said, there's a lot of great events coming up. We went through them at the beginning of the podcast. And I hope that I see everyone at some of these events getting that learning in.
Mr. Flawless, why don't you enlighten us with some final? I haven't said that in a while. Mr. Flawless. Well, yeah, I did just a couple weeks ago, but just when it's us three. Mr. Flawless, final thoughts.
I want to leave everybody with this, and I'm going to tag on to what you were saying, Edgar, when it comes down to, show season, the importance of education, the importance of the correct education. Trust me, I know because I'm in it. We work hard. We work our asses off all year. And especially those that summertime where things are really busy and crazy and hectic and people are out there grinding every single day, working 6-7 days a week, working weekends, late nights, missing concerts for their kids or baseball games or football games and not being able to be home in time for dinner. The struggle's real, right? I get it and I appreciate it. And I know that when things start to calm down for you, especially during the wintertime, you all deserve a break and you all deserve to spend that extra time with your family because that's who we do it for. And we get that. But I want you to think of it in a different way. During this time is when our industry, for better or for worse, the amount of education that the industry provides, which I think, and we all agree, we can all do better. And that's what we're striving for. Whatever efforts that they do happens during this time. We have to make a decision as professionals to now take the time, more time away from our families to go out there and to participate in these trainings. And it's a hard decision sometimes. I get that, but I want you to look at it in a different light and think of, look, the more you prepare yourself, the better you educate yourself, especially now when you want to just take that breather. I implore you, go out there, educate, take all the trainings, go to the trade shows, network with people, because when you do that and you continue to do that, it makes the time when it's go time, right, or season during summertime that much smoother for you so that you don't have to wait for the off season or wintertime to be able to do those things with the family or to be there for them. It gives you our most important commodity, which is time, right? The thing that we need the most is time. And if you're more efficient at what you do, if you're better at what you do, then you're able to get home earlier to your kids and to your family. You're able to be more profitable, to make more money so that you can enjoy the things that you dream of and that you want to be able to provide for your family. But the only way you can do that is either you get lucky, which doesn't happen often, okay? Or you educate yourself and you prepare yourself so you put yourself in a position where you demand that and you can achieve that. So I hope to see everybody at the Western show. I hope to see everybody at the Southwest show out in Florida. I'm excited for everybody that had the opportunity to go out to Atlantic City and learn from there. We look forward to seeing you guys at the boot camps this year, at our matrix trainings, everything that we have in store for you. I know if you've been there before and you've done it once or twice or come out for the third or fourth time, I promise you'll learn something a little bit different. I mean, you'll get better at what you do and take it for what it is and take advantage of, I always tell the kids and Janie and everything, it's like, when I see them doing something or when we're walking and like carrying something simple like groceries, and I tease the kids and I go, start curling those groceries, and I go, seize every opportunity, bro. You know what I mean? You have an opportunity to do something, do it while you're doing it. Just take the groceries in, curl those bad boys, right? You know what I mean? Seize every opportunity, every minute of every day, so that you can set yourself up to be the best version of you. So with that, I'm glad to be back. Looking forward to next week, Edgar, Wednesday. Let's hit the Instagram Live with the bang, because the following week we're going to be doing our show duties.
Absolutely. And like they say, you can get lucky sometimes, but you can't be lucky all of the time, right? You got to be prepared. You got to be educated. You have to have that right there. I had, let's see, really quick here, last shout out here. I had 2 of my guys in Lauren Broom class, CPO class, both pass, and now got 2 more next month. Let's go, Doug. Which, by the way, Doug, I spoke to Casey. We need to talk soon. So anyways, hope that everybody out there is ready for the weekend. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Join me and John on the Instagram Live and part 2 next week. Have a good one, guys. Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Pool Nation Podcast, a member of the Pool Nation family. You can listen to us live every Friday here at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. You can find us at Pool Nation or poolnationpodcast.com, on Facebook, or on Instagram at pool.nation. And to find more info about Pool Invoice, the billing software built specifically for the pool industry, go to poolinvoice.com. Before you go, this is what the pool industry has been waiting for. Poolmanuniversity.com. It's the first platform dedicated to learning the swimming pool service and repair industry. A pool service community where you can connect and find videos on business, service, water chemistry, and repairs. See you there at poolmanuniversity.com.